Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to today's Trading the US Open live here at the Live Trade Room, and today is Thursday the 4th of October. So just give you a very brief introduction to what you can expect over the course of the trading session. We trade the markets technically, and what we do is we look for high probability trading opportunities, and we'll show you how we go about identifying those. We use multi-time frame analysis. So looking at the bigger picture and then narrowing that down to really be able to identify and then execute really high probability trades and manage those trades effectively then with consistency and discipline in our approach, with one aim, and that is to book in consistent returns. So without further ado, if I could draw your attention then please to our risk warning currently up on screen. Do take a brief moment to familiarize yourself with that. And what we need to do before we start every session is have a basic understanding of the news flow. So for this we'll get up Forex Factory and we'll utilize this. As you can see, over the course of the day we don't really have an awful lot to deal with. We've got sort of minor events for the afternoon impacting the US dollar and the Canadian dollar, but as you can see it's a bank holiday in China for the whole of this week, so we don't really have much to deal with in terms of scheduled news events. Of course we can have there's a number of macro events underway in the US, with the UK, with Europe, with Japan, with Iran, with Russia, with China. The list goes on. There's a number of sort of geopolitical risks which we need to be aware of, and they have the potential to impact these markets at any moment. So so now we'll just get straight into the charts, and let's start with let's have a look at these markets on a daily time frame so we get an understanding in terms of what's happening. We can look at the euro dollar and we can see that this market has bounced off yesterday's lows. And a little bit of strength coming into the euro. In fact, I should probably rephrase that by saying a little bit of weakness creeping into the US dollar. Quite significant pullback in the pound dollar. We will see if it has enough to actually break above yesterday's high. We shall certainly wait and see. But we're likely to get to a point, and we are at the weekly low, which can provide significant resistance here in this case. And we might end up seeing some strength start to creep back in, but we shall of course wait and see on that. The dollar yen is just bouncing off these highs up here. The 114.17 level was a previous level of resistance, and we've broken above that yesterday, and now we're just pulling back a little bit. So it's in keeping with the weakness that we're seeing across the board in the US dollar, only potentially on a relatively short-term basis. We've seen these markets just roll off these highs in terms of the dollar CAD. The Aussie dollar has had a really strong bounce off these levels. As you can see down, we had a bounce off the 70.65. Now we're only sort of 20 pips above. It looks like a lot like it's a massive move, and it is on a 1 minute time frame. But as you can see, there's a bit of pullback off these lows. So it'll be interesting to see where we end up with the Aussie dollar, if some strength starts to creep back into this market or not. Similar situation, not as pronounced in the New Zealand dollar. You can see we've now broken below the 6,500, and it'll be interesting to see if price can stay below that level or not. We've had a bit of dollar weakness creep in to the trading session so far. Moving on to the euro pound, we've got to be careful with this market. It's really quite choppy. It makes new highs and then it makes new lows. So we do need to be careful with this market. We have the 88.47. It's obviously reacting a lot to lots of developments in the UK. We obviously had the party conference for the Conservatives. A lot of statements made, a lot of erratic moves. So we do like the idea of this market below the 88.47. It would represent a constructive structural failure to the downside. The pound yen just procrastinating at these levels, so we're going to just back off the yen pairs just for the short term until we get some proper direction. Gold, we've had a real strong bounce off this level, so this is where we're currently at, a little bit of strength creeping back into the gold market. We do like the idea of this market pushing lower. The problem we have is we're seeing a significant amount of weakness creeping into the yen. So hopefully tomorrow we'll, into the US dollar. So maybe we get a bit of a strong pullback on that today, or tomorrow we get that little rollover to the downside. But either way, we are still, for now, relatively bearish the gold market. Looking at the US oil, we're kind of experiencing something similar to yesterday before we had the crude oil inventories, which this market then flushed lower to the 74.43 and then exploded to the 75.93, back to the 75.05 and then up to the 7700. So a really volatile, really explosive period for the oil markets, and then we're sort of going into sideways moving price action for the majority of today, as you can see. So it does remain to be seen. We do have some support creeping in around this level, 75.93. So there is a potential level of support at the 75.09 level. If there was further structural failures to the downside, so the next structural failure to the downside, if we're below the 75.93, might actually give us a little bit more to the downside in this market, and that's the US oil. UK oil been pushing to the upside, as you can see over the last week or so, and just hanging around those particular highs. Similar situation with the US oil. Even though we got a positive number coming out in terms of 8 million barrels was the print that we saw yesterday in the crude oil inventories, which is likely to apply a little bit of downward motion in the oil markets, which is why we could potentially look at this market to push lower after a really strong explosive move in the opposite direction. So now let's see what the commitment of buyers is in this market to continue to push these prices higher. So we'll watch these very carefully. Moving on to the US equity markets, we've been talking this morning about the 2,900 level, and price was getting close to that, but we've since sort of pulled back a little bit, and we're now just above the 2912. So we need to see a little bit more price action there in that one. The Dow Jones to the downside, we've been in this pretty significant kind of uptrend, which has had its issues. It's had its volatility, of course, but yesterday we made an all-time high and then a really strong rejection of that level. So I suppose the only saving grace is we're seeing a little bit of bearish price action creep into these markets over the course of the day, and the Nasdaq as well is just rolling over to the downside. So we keep a close eye on them. A market that we are into the downside is the FTSE. There's a bit of strength in the pound, a little bit of strength. You can see the pound potentially edging lower against the euro, but obviously hasn't moved to any great extent, and not an awful lot against the yen. So looking at the FTSE, the UK 100, we're seeing these markets just roll over to the downside. So hopefully we're still in this trade to the downside. So I'll take note of this low. This is the level that we're looking for this market to breach, and below the 74.23 we might get a nice move lower. So we can still keep a close eye on that. The Euro stocks, we do like the idea of the Euro stocks lower, but today we're not really getting any particular follow through. So we can continue to look at some of these markets over the course of the session. We can look at the FTSE market just bottom right there. Flicking through, let's have a look at the oil market. Just now beginning to see a structural failure in this market. So we might look for opportunities to sell this market below the 75.93 if this is the sort of the real bit of price action that we can look to work with. So we're getting the breakout below that level now. There's a little bit of resistance below it, so maybe we can just be a little bit patient right now and wait for that opportunity to arrive. So this is the gold market. So this is the gold market. Okay, so we've got the gold market here just retracing these lows. So we've got the oil, we'll keep a close eye on the oil, the FTSE. We're not too far away from a breakout if the pound starts to strengthen against the euro, and we should wait and see if that's the case or not. Might be worth keeping a close eye on that. And then the rest of these markets are all pulling back at the moment. Except for perhaps the dollar Swiss. So we'll continue to, in terms of the currency pairs, we'll continue to just see what the Aussie dollar is doing. We're having a strong pullback on the 15-minute time frame. So these are our markets. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of a structural failure in here, just below these current levels. If we get a bit of a flush lower, then that's going to certainly put a question mark in the mind of those looking to push this price higher. So hopefully we get a little flush lower. We've currently just gapped a tiny bit lower, and hopefully we get a little bit of a move to the downside. So we've been in this market all morning, and see if we can start making new lows in this market. So this is just a really long slide to the downside. We're in this market on a daily time frame. And we have been looking to sell this for the last, well, since last Wednesday night really. Booked in some profitable trades and a number of other sort of intraday trades that only got sort of stopped out by just about a pip before it obviously headed to the downside, which is the direction in which we're only looking to trade this market. And that's where our approach, where understand the market conditions, understand what you're looking to do, and have a direction of bias starts to come in. Because if you have a direction of bias, then you very much you can then trade in that direction. I've just posted there in the chat box, so if you would like to say hello, please do so, or do feel free to ask any questions as you go. We'll just switch to a multi-screen. Let's get up our pen. We're looking to potentially sell the euro pound to the downside below the 88.47. This mark is just pulling back to this level and is looking like we're going to roll over, but how much commitment behind that move, we're not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. There's still plenty scope for this market to push lower. So with the non-farm payroll tomorrow, major news event, could be interesting, and we're currently selling the FTSE 100 at this price here, and we will be looking for I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just shift this chart along just a little bit. And I'll start those again. So so we'll start with the euro pound. Break below the 88.47. We look to push this price higher. Now, if we get a break below and we get a pullback, that would be interesting sort of level to perhaps take this market to the downside. So that's our little pullback symbol, and the FTSE 100 we're currently selling at this level in here with the expectation for this market to squeeze lower, as you can see. So the Aussie dollar, we're already in this market to the downside. We have seen a very big move already, or a significant move, let's say, and we're currently looking to trade it, but you know, this market can absolutely be sold from the 70.85 level to the downside. So we don't really have even major news events to have to deal with. So we might be close to getting a breakout below the 85.47 in the euro pound. And if so, we might look to see if we can capitalize on that. And that should also help our FTSE 100. So these have the potential to be a little bit correlated. What it will do to the pound dollar. So we do like the pound to strengthen, but just perhaps today we are getting a little bit of buying coming in. Gold market is just coming off these highs a little bit. So we're at that 50 level as we speak. So let's go into smaller time frames. So you can see the momentum from high to low. We do have the 88.47 just sitting in here just below, and we're just slowly grinding towards that level. But let's go in so you can see this sort of, let's call it a volatile move lower. It's sort of swinging lower and then pushing higher and making new highs, and then rolling over and making new lows as well. Looks like we're getting that move. We're likely to see the FTSE just maybe roll over to the downside. So hopefully we get some movement there. Might take a little while to kick in maybe, but excuse me, we're finally getting that little bit of a move lower. It's in line with our bit of dollar pound strength, should I say. So we're getting a tiny little move in our favor. We do want to break the 74.23 level. So hopefully we'll get the next leg to the downside in this market. Okay, so the 74.33 now in the FTSE 100. So maybe we have the potential in the oil markets for the oil markets to just roll over to the downside. It's just these highs in here. If we get a break below, we get a bit of a pullback. Get in below the 7600. That might work for us, and see if we just get a little bit of a move lower after yesterday's extreme volatility. Okay. We had the potential for the euro pound to squeeze lower. Let's see if that's the case. So really it will be trading the breakout of the 88.47 below the 88.50 level, with the expectation for it to just squeeze further lower to the downside. So this is a structural failure in here, so it is still of significant interest if this price starts to break below that level. And we're getting the move in the US oil market to the downside. I can bring this back up. I'll just change the directory a little bit. So we're going to get a pullback. You know, we kind of want it to break below the 75.93 and then look to get on the pullback on this market. So a bit of a question mark over the Aussie dollar, and we have the 88.47 to the downside in the euro pound. So now let's just see if we just get a bit of a close. I'll just take these off. So now we're looking at the euro pound and see if we get a bit of a close below this level, and if so, this is on a 1 minute time frame. We can use the just above the 50 level to keep a nice small stop loss and just see if we get an explosive move lower. We want to make sure we're trading at the correct trade size for our account size, so we've predetermined exactly what size we're going to be trading. And we can assist you with that decision making as well if you want to contact us. We do have a risk management calculator as well for all our members at the Live Trade Room, so they're able to know precisely exactly how much capital they need to expose in each trade. That's a part of the disciplined approach in terms of knowing fully what you're doing when you're trading these markets, and have a really structured approach based on effective risk management. So we've got the close below the level, so that's what we wanted to see. Now we want to see if we get some follow through, and at the moment we're getting a bit of a pullback on it. So let's see if we actually do roll over below this level in here. So just to confirm, if we get a break below 88.45, we'll get into it to the downside, and we can place a stop loss at the 88.50. So we'll put it a little bit above that. So we're talking about an 8 or 9 pip stop loss in the euro pound. But look, we're getting a really strong reversal signal off that level. So that's why we wait for the confirmation before we get into it. So let's see how this market reacts around that 88.47, which is a weekly low, a weekly and monthly low, I think. So clearly a bit of strength creeping in. So let's see if we get that explosive move to the downside or not. So we're not quite getting the follow through that we would ordinarily like in this market. You can see how little volatility has been in these candlesticks until the last 2 or 3. You know, there's clearly sort of a reaction around this level. Now that we've been edging lower, so there's definitely buyers wanting to prevent these prices from moving lower, but it just depends who's going to win out. And if we break below the 88.45, we're then hopeful that the sellers are going to start taking control and really push this price lower. So we shall very much wait and see. So we're getting quite close to a really kind of strong a real strong reversal of these levels across a number of these markets. So let's continue to focus on these. We're not really getting strong signals. We're getting some counter trend signals and stuff across the board. We prefer to trade the trend. So we're getting some strong reversal signals with some of these markets. So it's just really the dollar is weakening a little bit more. And what we do want to keep an eye on is the non-farm payroll tomorrow. So we might get some positioning in the build up to that event. So let us see. A few of these markets don't really look like they want to be moving anytime soon. Let's look at the Aussie dollar under 15. So we're just seeing a situation where we really struggled to break below the 88.45, which was the confirmation we needed to get into it. And now we've actually technically created a bit of a structural failure to the upside. So we want to see if this level gets broken. It just means we can back off this market once more. Let's see what the options are. So in terms of new clear-cut opportunities, they're kind of few and far between. So this is the level that becomes quite important now. So we've taken a little bit of risk off that table, off this trade. We want this 74.48 level to hold, and if it doesn't, I'm quite happy to be out of that trade, because that will be a structural failure back to the upside. So it's just trying to remain consistent with opportunities like this. We get into it so that we can see structures be created and we can see prices continuing to move lower. But obviously we need to get it to break the 74.23 really before we can start taking more risk off, or even booking in profit, maybe at a lower price. So it feels as if this market isn't that interested in moving that far below the weekly low, which is the 74.45 level. The gold market might present an interesting opportunity for us. So what we'll do is we'll make the switch over to the live trade room now, because we've got some traders over there. So we'll switch rooms. But please do, if you are new to us, do read the information below. We're currently offering a 14-day free trial to join us, where we offer you over 76 live trade rooms per calendar month, and that is currently available for you. And then if you do decide to join us, you're just looking at a monthly fee of $9.99 per calendar month. So hopefully you'll find it incredible value, and it's it's one of those skills that you learn, and it can become a skill for life. Trading these markets can be very lucrative once you've learnt the skills involved in trading these markets. So that's the difficulty. That is available to you if you would like to join us. Just read the information below, and you can get instant access. Even when we switch across now to the live trade room, you can get instant access to the other trading room, and we'll see if we get any opportunities in these markets. So we'll see how we get on with those trades then. So thank you as always for joining us. Do feel free to give us a thumbs up, or do subscribe to our channel. Just connect with us by just searching the live trade room, or clicking the subscribe button below. And you can also connect with us through our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn. All the details are there up on screen. So thank you very much for joining us. Do take care. From everyone here at the Live Trade Room, bye for now.
You